How often did you bathe as a young man? Was it more than just the Saturday night bath?
Yeah, if it wasn't too cold, why we'd bathe in the creek or in the river. We did a lot of swimming in Little Sandy, and then also over there in Airman's Creek, which is down from that little branch that runs from around KCC, Airman's Creek. And we would, of course, we had to bathe. We had to be clean when we left the house. We had to be clean. But as far as taking specific efforts to bathe, mostly we do that in the rivers and the creeks, and had a big tub at home, which we hated, but we had to get down in that sometimes. And
What with 8 brothers and sisters, you probably didn't go to the barber shop or the beauty salon much for haircuts, did you?
no, we got a lot of our hair cut at home, and as a matter of fact, I cut the boys' home, at home. I cut them one year, and well, it was a thing really. Bird cuts was a thing, so I give them a bird cut, and I couldn't get it hardly leveled out, so I just kept cutting and cutting and cutting until I got everything except the head. And when they took pictures of them and brought them home, we looked at that, and Gary said, whatever we do, we'll afford a barber from now on. So barbering wasn't that much, maybe a quarter, 30 cents.
Well, what was the clothing? I know this Christmas sweater here,
Yeah.
pretty comfortable looking
Yeah,
attire you
nice.
got on there. You're looking mighty dapper.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm on that.
when you were a young man, what was the clothing like?
Well, the clothing we wore was we got the best of it. I'll say that, and it was sewn if it was ripped, and it wasn't buy a new one because we got so many to last us for the year, and if we'd tear them, why we'd had to have them sewed up. And we wore nothing was thrown away. I wore shoes. I know I went to school. We went to school. We walked over the hill from farm over to school, Grayson Grade School. And when I get up there on top of the hill, when they're going down toward the courthouse, well, I had brogans on as bills, and my feet wasn't near that big, but I'd wear it there if it was a skiff of snow on the ground. And if it was just a little bit of frost and skiff of snow, I'd take it off and put it under a log, and then I'd put them back on when I got back to the top of the hill, and then wear them home, and they'd think I had them on all day. So that's one way I got, because I could stand that cold more than I could stand I don't know whether it was a humiliation or whether it was, I never did feel that very much.
Did you go barefoot?
Barefooted, yeah. Oh yeah, we went barefooted. We didn't wear shoes. I'd say November through, no later than the middle of April. And then we'd take our shoes off again, because shoes cost money, and barefoot didn't cost anything.
So there weren't many tenderfoots back
There
then.
wasn't no tenderfoot. No, I'll tell you, you had a lot of time you see their toes wrapped up, because you stump your toe, and you go home, and then they'd rip off something or other and wrap it around your toe and put some turpentine on it, I believe it was. It stung like mad. And first thing you know, the bandage would come off, and your toe got well, and you stumped it again maybe later on.
Well, speaking of stuff that was stinging and walking to school, what was discipline like at home and also at school?
At discipline at home, it wasn't that much, because we knew the law, and law is whatever mom or dad said, and we went with it, or we answered the consequences. And I know, for instance, Mom hollered in the room one day at Everett and I, and maybe some of the others in there, and he said, "What'd you say?" or "What do you want?" like that. And so she came in with a keen briar switch, and she said, "You say ma'am to me, and you say sir to your daddy." And she worked him over with the little bar switch. So we learned to yes ma'am and no ma'am pretty early. And so that was the discipline that we knew, because we knew that there were certain things that you did and certain things you didn't.
Well, come here, lean over this way for a second. Where did this Newland ear pull come from? Let's get to the camera here.
Oh.
We'll get a little Newland ear pull. Where did the Newland ear pull come from? Because I suffered from that as a child. Very traumatic.
Well, that was that's a good handle to get a hold of.
You think?
It is a good handle, and if you couldn't get them, you ask them to do something. You tell them to do something, and they didn't answer. I mean, they didn't respond. Then that, like that with your ear, got your attention.
Kelly had a technique of kind of grabbing, twisting, and pulling up.
Yeah.
And
That's smart.
It's silent and deadly, and nobody sees it happen. And you can't, if you whine about it, it's not like you smacked him. So it was very effective.
He gets the job done.
But you'd hear the cartilage or something pull or pop in there.
Yeah, I know.
Did you do that to the boys?
Yeah, he got it.
I mean, because he did it. He used it. I guess
Well,
I'm thinking about you.
You don't have to do it too much. But
No.
once they find out that if you're in reach, well, I didn't have that much discipline problem. They all got their comeuppance, as same as we did. And I was telling you about when we went out to play and went over to the farmer's house, that we got whipped all the way home, or got whacked.
Because it was
Dad
after dark.
kick him with the fast side of his foot. And that went on for, we knew that that was the thing to do, was just, if you was told to do something, the thing to do was to just do it. And it was easier than getting whacked.
Well, when you ran the projector at the Clark Theater, do you remember what the price was to see a show? Was there a different price for matinee and evening shows?
Well, they had special shows, but most of the time it was 11 and 19 cents. And the kids would stand around with a ticket booth, and they'd say, "Give me your extra penny, give me your extra penny." Because at 19 cents, they generally paid with a quarter, and they'd get a nickel and a penny back. And so they'd sit there and they'd beg enough pennies till they'd get the 11 to go to the movies. So that's how they...
Was popcorn still $4 a box?
Popcorn. Popcorn was 5 and 10. If you got that huge, you got 10 center. But popcorn was another thing. Sometimes that's the only thing that the profit in the theater was.
I think it still is.
You think it is? Anyway, Buster would stop the theater. He'd stop sometimes. He'd stop the show and go down through popcorn. They said, come on, let's see the movie. I've got to sell these 4 boxes here before I can get the movie again. So somebody, I'll buy one. So
that's a good way to sell popcorn.
Well, he didn't call you for nothing. He do his business.
Well, what was your favorite movie from your time at the Clark Theater?
I think my favorite movie of all time might be Trail of Lonesome Pine. That was a good movie. And then there's another one. I don't like Civil War very much, but there's one about a Civil War, and this family lived in Virginia, and the father said that, I can't think of what that is.
It wasn't Gone with the Wind, was it?
No. Gone with the Wind was a good one, but it was a long one.
Yeah.
Gone with the Wind was, I'll tell you, I run it as a projectionist for one whole weekend, and I'd run it, I'd start in the morning on a Saturday, and I'd run it, and then it'd run 4 hours. And then I'd run it in the afternoon, and then I'd run it 1 time and a half before I go home about 1 o'clock in the morning. And then the same thing on a Saturday and Sunday. And then I run it twice. I think it came back to Clark Theater. And then I paid to see it 2 or 3 times since then.
Well, I haven't been able to sit through it yet. That's Molly.
You haven't seen
Molly
it?
really likes it, and I have trouble watching it. So.
Well, it's that's the first cuss word that's ever heard in the movie, you know.
Was it really?
That's the first one. They had a.
Was that Frankly My Darling, I Don't Give a Damn?
That's what it was. And he had. There used to be what is called a Hayes office, and if the Hayes office, if you the movie came out with something that wasn't. Well, it was off key in any way, with words, actions, or depicted in their dress. Well, the movie just was banned right then. And so the Hayes office dominated. But since the Hayes office left, I think that anything goes now, probably.
Well, as a child and then also as a parent, do you remember the first vacation that you took with your parents, and then also the first vacation you took the boys on?
Vacation covers a lot of territory. Vacations, we used to go to the caves on Sundays, and Mom would bake the mincemeat pies and the apple pies and the cherry pies and have food of all kinds and fried chicken and whatever. And we'd go out to caves and we'd sit there and we'd eat, and then before we come home we'd pick up everything that was cold and finish it up, and then we'd go back home. Well, that wasn't considered a vacation, I'm sure. But I don't know I don't remember going on a vacation unless, until I was married. I got a 33 months vacation with Uncle Sam, but yeah, I don't think we call that.
That's a long vacation.
That's a long vacation.
And I don't think it wasn't a vacation, was it?
Not much.
Out of all the places that you've been to see, what's the one place that you go back to see if you had the chance?
I go back to see. Really, I'm not sure of that. And I wonder about that. I've thought about it 2 or 3 times, because I've thought about, I'd like to go back and see some of the places in foreign countries. But everybody says don't go back, because what was there is not, you're not looking at it at the same pair of eyes. You're looking at it with the eyes that was, with a more intelligence maybe, or more experience, and what was there is just not as way you thought it would be. And then I'm not sure looking back is very good anyway.
Well, but what about a place that you really enjoyed that you want to go back
enjoyed?
to see? You know, a spot that you've been to on the whole globe, whether it was in the service or before the service or after the service or with Granny, or, can you think of a place that you really enjoyed visiting?
Well, Reed and I made some plans. We went to Spain. Now that was very enjoyable, because there was no responsibilities we had. When it come to eat, they took us to where we went to eat, and they fed us whatever the menu was, and we went for recreational purposes. We go to these castles, and we envisioned what was there long ago, and then see what was there now, and it was interesting. And I know we saw King Philip's bed in the 6th century, and it was less than 5 feet long. So I've often wondered how big the people were then.
We went to Henry Clay's house. It's a weird sound. We went to Henry Clay's house for Christmas Eve on the 26th.
Yeah.
And we toured his house and got to see everything. And his bed was a little old bed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think the people were smaller, but surely King Philip. I've always heard that kings was big and massive characters. This was King Philip VI, and it had it on the bottom of his bed, and you walked in, and it was made up just like you was ready to crawl in. But it hadn't been crawled into since the 6th century.
Did you think about crawling in there?
No, that'd about fall apart if I step on it. It didn't look very strong.
But do you remember any amusement parks or swimming pools that you took the boys to when they were little?
We went to cross the river into Huntington, and we used to take them over there and swim. And we took our kids and then Virgie's kids, and we just loaded up whatever could get in the car. and we'd go over there and swim. And then when we went on vacation, we went to Myrtle Beach, a dozen times more or less. And we would take Donna Kay and Mary Lou and Pete, and then about 4 or 5 of ours, and Drew and I, and sometimes the maid, the hard girl, would go with us. Once I'm sure that she went with us. I can think of maybe more. And
Wilma Hall, or
no, it was another girl. Seemed like she was from Hitchens, and I can't think of her name.
was Camden Park around back then?
Who?
Camden Park, the music
Camden?
park.
Yeah, now we went to Camden Park also. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Camden Park, and I don't know. There's other places that we went, and we enjoyed them. But they weren't plentiful. They weren't like they are now. You can go in any town. They've got a recreational facility somewhere.
When you were a young man, what was the mode of transportation besides walking?
Walking was it. Well, now when I was, how young you're saying? When I was young, real young, why, we used to walk out of Grayson. You go out down by what KCC is now, and we walk out to the Barretts Creek Bridge, and then these wagons would be coming into town.
They'd come in east and west on I-64?
Yeah, no, ain't no I-64.
What about US 60?
No, it wasn't no I-6. It was Midland Trail. And we went on Midland Trail, and if the farmer wasn't watching, we'd sit on this. There's a coupling pin that goes in. You know, if they want the wagon to be up close for a heavy load, well, they pull that coupling pin up, it pulls the wheels closer together. And then if they don't, when they've got a big load, you know, like hay or something like that, they'll pull that coupling pin out and stretch it out. Well, and then when they bring it up close, when they brought it downtown on Saturdays, why, that coupling pin was, one or two of us could get on that and ride back to town. And if they catch us back there, but he'd flick his whip over his shoulder, and he made sure you got out. And that whip had a lot of authority. But we'd ride as far as we can. We'd ride a while, and then we'd get off, and then when we'd follow him a while, and then he'd turn his back. He'd keep watching the road. When he'd turn his back, while we'd get back on the coupling pin. He'd let us ride a while, and then he'd whack us off again.
Well, this question is one that they always ask people in golf magazines. And since you had Sunrise Valley and you've had a hole-in-one, and you've been playing golf for a long, long time, the question is who would be your dream foursome? The other 3 guys you have out there with you, but even more than that, I mean, if you think back to the people you played golf with, I know you say K.E. played a lot of golf.
K.E. played a lot, and Dad played. Now, Dad shot his age. Of course, he was 83 or something like that.
But on 18 holes, he's able to...
Well, yeah, well, no, it was 9 holes. See, we just had a 9-hole golf course. But we had a 36 9-hole, you know, which made it 72 if you played it twice. But he played, and sometimes he'd get out there and of course, he hit it, and he hit it accurate. Now, he didn't flounder all over the landscape. He'd hit it right straight down, and then he put it. He's a pretty good putter, and that's how he had a good. And I think Mr. Clifton might have shot his age when he was up to 80, because he golfed an awful lot too. So, and then another thing, Sunrise Valley was short course. A lot of 4-pars you could drive pretty easy. And there's one, if you want to take a chance to go between trees, which is about 6 feet apart, out about 100 yards. If you wanted to, aim was very good, then you could, and you'd go through that window there about between those 2 trees, and you'd land right in the middle of the fairway. So you had a good shot there at an eagle, and quite often you could birdie that one. So that helped your score a little bit too.
Well, yeah, it's golf is something I have a slight interest in. And it seems like a lot of, I know my dad's wild about golf, and
yeah,
seems to be something that's been an enjoyable pastime throughout the generations. Well, you were talking about your first job.
Oh, first job. Oh, working in the beauty shop. You. Well, anyway, in that day and time when the women got a permanent,
Man, distill these off.
it was
I'm running out.
they kind of wrapped their hair in cotton and tin foil and put the slop or whatever they put on it, the liquid, and then they put them under a heat hood, and they'd kind of bake them out. And then when they take that out, they'd take the cotton and throw it on the floor and the tin foil, and then after one or two got their permanents, why the place was a mess. And so I'd be called in to clean it up and take it out and put it in the garbage out back. And so that's how I worked in the beauty shop. And then I cleaned it up, and then when they cut hair, why I'd have to sweep up the hair and all that sort of thing. So I worked in the beauty shop there for Lloyd Hockley's wife. What was her name? She wasn't married then. Adelaide Hockley. She was the boss there. Well, it was Bess Horton's beauty shop, but Adelaide run it for her. Bess Horton lived there on Main Street, and she had a lot of. She was married to a guy that sold Golden Dream coffee, Horton, Lewis Horton. So she had. I think Adelaide paid me. I got about maybe 15 cents a day or something like that. It's pretty good.
Pretty good money.
Pretty good money, buddy. I got money. But I made good money. I made, all the time I was a young fellow, I made money. I cut kindling, and I'd sell it to the people, you know, to get their stars, get their fire in the morning, get it started good. And I cut some, if I had cedar, I could get 15 cents for a bushel of it, but otherwise, if it was just pine or oak or whatever, well, I could get about 10 cents a bushel out of it. And then I started, had a couple of guys working for me. My business got so big that I couldn't cut it and deliver it all the time, so I had two E-step boys cutting for me, and I'd give them a nickel and I'd get a nickel. And I'd deliver it and collect and give them their nickel back. And so I had guys working for me before I was 10 years old. Not much, but I did.
Well, it's Kelly talks about how what you told him to prune the trees.
Yeah.
And he was 10 or 12, and you told him to give him a dime for every tree he pruned.
Yeah.
So he got one of his friends to come over, and he told him, "I'll give you a nickel for every tree you prune." And he said he sat underneath an umbrella, 10 years old, drinking iced tea or lemonade. And every time that boy pruned a tree, Kelly made a nickel and he made a nickel. Of course, he wasn't doing anything. And not a lot's changed for him, really.
No,
he's doing the same thing now.
He's still got that guy doing that nickel work.
Yeah, he's got that same job. We had to change a bunch of ballast out one time in Olive Hill.
Yeah.
And he paid us $5 a ballast.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't get there fast enough. And I mean, we worked night and day, every hour we could, and just practically killed ourselves. And a year or two later, I was bragging about how we made all that money on that. And he goes, "Well, every ballast that you and Brent changed out for $2.50 a piece, we got $5 too. We got 10. We gave you all 5. We kept 5. But that's pretty fair, I guess."
Yeah.
Well, were there any? Thinking back, we're in our last little bit here. Let me pause it for a second and see how much time.